Hello, friends. So happy to have you here with us today at Radical Joy. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time with us, we're glad you're here. Each week, we're here with you talking amongst ourselves about things that weigh on our minds and hearts, hoping if you're dealing with something similar, we can adjust our perspectives as you listen. Hey, if you're struggling with something that needs immediate attention, please know that help is available. Just dial 988 nationwide in the U.S. to reach the Mental Health and Suicide Crisis Hotline. All of us here at CLW Studios believe that mental health is a vital part of our well-being. The more people we meet and the more places we go, the more we realize how important it is to make people aware of the fact that there is no shame in enjoying the parts of our lives that are incredible. It's time for some radical joy. And this week, the three fingers pointing back at us are for our guest, a talented
photographer, if my ad, and a videographer as well. Would you like to carry on?
Yeah, I'm going to carry on. I'm just going to give this a pause so Carrie has a moment to like mark it so we can edit there. Okay. It's time for some radical joy. And this week, the three fingers pointing back at us are for our guest, a talented
Ford employee and
Right.
CEO of Chrysler. Yeah.
Right. And he loves to do the whole, I don't know why photographer's giving me, it's like the word vulnerable. I have to be very slow with that word or it never comes out right. It's time for some radical joy. And this week, the three fingers pointing back at us are for our guest, a talented photographer, action and adventure videographer, Croatian-born avid explorer of China and beyond, cherished friend, father, and phenom, Max. Welcome, friend.
Thank you, darling. So happy to be here.
It is a pleasure and joy to have you here. Max and I have been friends for what feels like eons. He made my life on cruise ships so much more enjoyable. We could not have been in more differing fields while working on cruise ships. He
That's so
was
true.
right as far as the photo manager. So whenever you go on a cruise ship, you often have many of the most memorable moments recorded forever, because there are photographers that will follow you all around your cruise vacation. They will take these beautiful images of you, and you can go by the gallery and decide how you want to take them home in a souvenir. And Max was the one to basically lead the entire team to make sure that that ran smoothly, that they continued to hit their sales targets, all those kinds of things, but also genuinely wonderful human being, fantastic friend, incredible conversationalist, dark humor, which means he was basically eternally entertaining, which was always enjoyable, and just a genuine, real person to have around. When you work in leisure and travel, sometimes it's a little difficult to know who your people are around that you deal with on a regular basis in the real world, and how some people kind of sort of get stuck in vacation mode. We have remained friends for well over 10 years, and
Yeah.
it is so nice to have you here on the show with us.
Man, we started talking about this. You've thrown that ball at me, I don't know, a year and a half ago that we may do something like this. And it kind of stayed with me. Like, I don't know, from the moment that we've actually met and started hanging out, even though we were like on the opposing fields, like right, you were in the entertainment part and I was in the money making part, right?
Yeah.
We were revenue driven and you were entertainment driven. I think that the part which kind of linked us together is because I kind of went out of my way, out of my bubble to give some value to you and to not just to you, but to your whole department, right? Because I would come in, I would shoot the shows, and I would just give you all the photos, everything that I shot is like, just take it, and like this is for me entertaining. I have something for my portfolio, and you guys can have photos of your performances, which you usually don't have, right? It's not something because you guys have to be on stage, so you rarely see yourselves perform. So I think that those acts of random kindness and something that was unexpected and nothing asked in return is what you may have identified with, because I think that is one of the qualities that I treasure about you the most, right?
Thank you, Rod. Well, and also, I just enjoyed being around you. It was always one of those things. Yes, random acts of kindness are lovely, and getting these incredible images was something I'll remember forever. It's funny because I was just going through my Google Drive yesterday and I found so many of them. I was like, oh, right. And also the photo shoot that you did with Martina. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I saw a lot of
We did
those
it in
images
New
as well.
Zealand, right? On the beach in New Zealand.
I want to say it was in New Zealand. I think that's
Yeah.
right. But I looked at those things and like, oh my God, I know that she still has them. I'd be willing to bet because she really enjoyed those. And for the longest time, I know that they were profile pictures and whatever for much of her social media because they really turned out beautiful. A, she's a beautiful woman. And B, the fact that your images were absolutely stellar. The meeting of those two is like, yeah, that I don't blame her. I'd want to hold on to those forever as well.
It was it
And
was it was really really cool shooting her. I remember that. I
yeah,
still remember those images, and I remember that I went dark. It was watered. It was the black beach, and her hair was wet, and we just created a series of like very very moody things that usually work for me, right? I
hmm
moved into into a market that likes the exact opposite, and I've kind of forced the market to fit with me. Not I didn't go other way around. So
yeah,
I did find my niche, but yeah, those images I've noticed that they have aged remarkably well.
yes. Well, I I think that is a wonderful way to sort of get into the what we want to talk about today. If you want to know the truth,
Tell me.
you found what you loved doing. You did it well. And even though the market may or may not love it, you carved your own niche out of it. I think that is an absolutely fantastic place to at least get started today. I think we
Hmm.
all kind of bend ourselves into pretzels trying to figure out what it is the market wants instead of flipping that script just a little bit and saying, this is what I love. This, because I love it, I think the quality is exceedingly good. And so I do this in the way that I do it. No one else can do it the way that I do it. And I present it to the world. And eventually, people who want it will find me.
Yeah, and that was like one of the background stories behind why I started my active social media journey earlier this year, actually, just for more people to actually know what I do and how do I approach the things that I do. I started more of a chit chat to get to know my life and what I do around, and then I'm going to kind of start to add more of my work and stuff into it. So it's going to create some kind of like a mix. You know, when you meet people for the first time, you don't actually start talking about politics, religion, and the more complicated subjects, but you start like with little chit chat of what do you like to do, where do you like to go, what do you like to eat. So my first initial videos are actually rotating around that with just sprinkles of photography and video inside of those videos, right?
Right.
But more people knowing what I do is actually just I think it's going to be beneficial for the whole thing in general that I actually enjoy a lot and love doing. Um, Carving a niche out in a new country where you don't know fully the culture, the language, or anybody else, it does sound like something that I would do because, like, like why not? Sounds like a fun thing to do, I guess. Like, if there is a challenge in life, why not? So I took
Exactly.
this one on, and it ended up being rewarding now. But at the end of the beginning, I was questioning my life choices.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point to make. I think if you're going after something, you need to realize this is not an overnight process for many, many, many people. If you're going to tackle the challenge, you need to understand that there's work to be done. There is time invested.
Hmm.
And I think that I'm talking as much to me as I am to anyone else out there listening. If you want to do what your passion is leading you to do, please understand that it may take a moment to bring others onto your mission. It's
True.
one of those things you do it as a labor of love for you. I know that Radical Joy started that way. I love getting the opportunity to do this every week. Is it one of those things that happened overnight? No. Is it still growing? Absolutely. I hope it will continue to grow as we continue to do this. We're starting season 3. I never would have guessed that it would have gone as long as it has. Woohoo! And it's just one of those things where, like, okay, you have to understand that this continues to build. And just like anything else, things built slowly over time tend to have a stronger foundation underneath them and
And you
will
have to keep on
probably
just doing
last
it, and you
longer.
keep on doing it, and you keep on doing it, and regardless of what the results are coming in, like if you do something out of love, then the more tangible results are less important because this is like kind of one of supporting mechanisms that you have, something that gets you out of bed and something that gives you a reason to, I don't know, like to look forward to another thing that is coming up your way, right?
Yes,
So it is
agree.
it is like it is like that internal driver that you have to have something. That's why I have my camera, and I still take my camera and I go out and I shoot, and it just makes me happy.
Yeah,
And without those things in life, I think we have a gap, which if you don't fill it with something that you love, usually tends to go that you fill it up with medicine. And that is just nasty. Searching for that thing that you love and you can't find it can be a very, very troublesome pursuit of happiness. But
Yes.
once you have it, you need to have something of that, right? Like whatever it is
Yes.
that is your like your exhaust valve that you can just like fire on all cylinders and let um your being enjoy what you're doing, you know.
Yes.
It's pretty cool. Like just before I went to Croatia, I went on a trip to Xinjiang, and I went into deep into Pamir Mountains, right? And the scenes over there, and what I've seen over there, like how everything looks like, you know, like I was back in those days when I was like a young photographer, like I would shoot almost everything, and then I would go back into the bus, download the images straight away, and start editing and looking how it looks like. And man, that is that feeling. If you have that feeling, that's kind of spectacular. And I
Yeah.
hope that anybody can find that. This is actually what I'm holding on to. That's why I'm holding on to. And being a photographer and videographer, that is not my original calling, right? You know that I have a master's degree in IT, and my mother ain't happy that I'm doing what I'm doing because, like, oh, why did you put so much money in you and you're just an artist?
Just an artist. Thanks, Mom. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, no, no. I get it. I get it.
you
I
like
do.
you know how those stories go and how they how the generation of our parents kind of perceives things.
Yes.
But it is up to us to like enjoy the loneliness through the process, because sometimes when we see something, we are going to be alone until other people see that, and other people are going to see it only when there are some kind of results. Until then, we are going to be alone and lonely, and we need to learn how to enjoy that solitude. We just have to be certain that we are on the right track with the right journey, and this is what we are driven to do, and
Yeah.
we just see where it takes us, right?
Yeah. And that
Otherwise,
is
you
so
know,
hard.
no regrets, right?
Otherwise, yeah. Oh God, no.
And
Like
I
there
can
are
always
days
take
where I
another
get so
job,
like,
right?
what's up?
I have something to fall onto, right? Like it's not that there is no options for me. It's just that this right now is something that inspires me, drives me, and it's something I want to do, right? So
Yeah.
the working times don't matter. How much money I'm making, as long as I can have an okay life, I'm okay. I don't need like numbers. I cannot take numbers with me anywhere, right?
Agree.
Like
Yeah. And
one day when I'm on my deathbed, having people in my life who are like you, that I can just like, if that is the film that is going to run before my eyes before I close them forever, like that is the key part that I'm trying to keep up alive and build. Like that's what matters to me.
yes. Oh my God. I wish that I wish that I'd been privy to that kind of mindset when I was younger, whenever I was buying all these stupid things to try to make me feel better, not realizing that it's so much simpler than that. It's about following your passion. It's about feeling like what you're doing is making a difference or putting your voice into the world. It's about finding people around you who feel similarly and are and burn with the same fire as you do, especially whenever it comes to your art and your passion and those kinds of things. And sometimes the fire that burns us all is that connection. It doesn't have to be a similar mindset or a similar passion. What it needs to be is just literally that desire for a deeper connection to know one another better, and that is
Hey,
more
one
than enough
lighthouse
to
sees
bind you.
another, right?
What's that?
One lighthouse sees another in the dark.
Yeah, yeah. And if they're that
We just
close
keep on
together,
growing on a
chances are
different
nobody's
mountain.
gonna go
So
beaching.
yeah.
What's that? Go. No, I'm sorry. We keep talking over each other. Go for it.
No, this is the part. This is the part that I said, like, you know, like we see each other's light,
Yeah,
even though we are on different mountains.
that's it. And it's one of those things where I wish I was. I think we don't give ourselves nearly enough credit for the enormity of our spirits. This sounds so woo woo. Gee, it sounds so unbelievably cliche, but I think that a lot of people consider themselves to be so much smaller than they are, and it takes a lot to be able to accept the fact that you are a grander person and being than perhaps you ever saw yourself. And the older I get, the more I realize that is. It's not a brag or a boast. What it is just like if I had always thought I was capable of this much my whole life, I would have gotten so much more done. I'm not regretting it. What I'm saying is I can pick it up from today and be so much more from here forward. And that is inspiring, not only to me, like it feels really good to know that, but also people around me that are in my circle. They're like, well, if Bullard can do it, I should be doing this too. And I look to my friends
There
to
is,
do that
I'm
for
sorry for
me.
interruption, but so
No,
many
please.
people in your circle can't do what you can do, because that is like, I don't think that there's many people on this planet who can do things that you do, the way you do them and the way you kind of frame them. But just a little bit of regression, when you say that the older you get, I was wondering how much older can you actually get, and if there is a limit on that. So like
There is a limit on that, you jerk. The sad part and the best part is it's both the blessing and the curse. Yes, there is a limit to it. The thing is, I don't know when that's going to be. So I got to fill all those days with as much awesome as I can muster. You see how I just
yeah.
turned that little dig into something nice? You see that?
You see, that part is what people can't do. This is the part, this is your talent, this is your beauty, that you can actually you just, you just took this, you turned the ball into it, and then you Steven Seagal it back at me.
Steven Seagal. Now I have a picture of me in a kimono with a terrible ponytail. Thank you. That's great.
And I will also like to offer you another insight on. You said like, oh, I shouldn't have done buying all of that stupid stuff. Like, man, you had to thread the path that you had to go through, right?
Yeah.
You walked down your path, and you were smart enough and open enough and kind enough that you could allow yourself the space and understanding there is space for growth, and then figure it out what it is, and then go in that direction. The things that you did before, I am no different. I bought stuff as well, and there is less and less stuff that we need to buy, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you figure out that you can't buy everything, that like you can try to fill that hole up a little bit, but you figure out that that is a bottomless pit, and it's just going to keep on going through and going through and going through, and getting stuck in that vicious cycle of just buying stuff and trying to cover it in that way ain't
Yeah.
gonna work. But
No.
you had to try it because you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So you
Agree.
just go down that path, and that's fine. There's no right and wrong here. It is just you did it, you went down that way, and now you're here. If you didn't go down that way, you wouldn't be here where you are.
Exactly. It's one of those things I never want to regret it. I just look at those things like, yeah, that was a time. And looking back now, I can admit that I was like, yeah, that was just me trying to fill some kind of void. And the older I get, it's so funny because I'm looking around and I love my place, but like everything here is secondhand. Literally everything I have in this apartment is something I got off Facebook Marketplace for pennies on the dollar. Because you need a place to sit, but it doesn't have to be something that you got from like we have a really nice furniture store here. It's West Elm, and it's really nice stuff. But I'm like, I don't need that so much. If you do, great. If you want to spend your money on that, that's 100% your journey. For me, that blue velvet couch that I got from some guy off the internet, I love that thing. And what
No, I'm
it
saying
does
like
is,
you talked about the West Elm thing, right?
mm,
I believe that if, for example, one of your really big pleasures in life is sitting down in a nice armchair with a cup of coffee to read a book, and then I think that that expensive armchair that you may buy is going to give you that feeling that you need to enjoy this to the full extent and get that experience, then that is a money well invested. But if you just plaster stuff from West Elm across your whole apartment just for the sake of that being from West Elm, then I don't think that that's the part that defeats the purpose of having it, right? But if
agree.
you know why you have it, like for example, why do I buy things um, from Apple? It is just like using their stuff gives me the feeling, right? The
Yeah.
tech gear, the cameras and stuff. Like I buy specific things from specific people because it gives me the feeling of using it. It kind of empowers me and streamlines my experience, right? It elevates my
Yes.
experience because it is ultimately just tools, but these tools that I use on a daily basis, if there are the ones that I enjoy using, I'll be more prone to use them more and in a proper way. You know what I mean?
I
So
do.
that is the money. It's money well placed, right?
Yes.
But then on the other side, I will walk down the road with completely broken pants, and I will not give a second thought whether I need to buy new jeans or not. You know, like it's
Yep.
yeah.
Agree. It's just priority. It's one of those things, and the older and less stupid I become, it's just like, yeah, this is not where I want to invest my time or my money or my passion. And it's
Please don't
just,
become less stupid. I enjoy being stupid the way you are.
well, it's a very different stupid. There's goofy stupid, and then there's just things that are just irresponsible stupid. I would like to say that stupid, like love, has many different colors. And some of
Hmm.
them I will absolutely surrender to wisdom of the age, and other I will cling to like an eighth grader because there's still nothing funnier than a dick joke. I said what I said.
That's what she said.
I, she may not have, because I don't know how thrilled she is with a dick joke. I'll be honest. I think that is very specifically
Uh,
a dude centric humor. There are women
yeah,
out
which
there
is
that
not
think it's
funny to women
funny.
at all. Yeah, we
No.
apologize to all the female listeners here at this point and viewers because this is,
Anyone
yeah, just
listening who does not find this
stupid,
humorous,
stupid,
I apologize, because it is
stupid
hilarious.
boys.
It's a very bizarre looking organ, and whenever you make jokes about it, I just think it's a scream. No matter how old I get, it's just funny. Never stops being funny. So, not only are you following your passions with your art and your media and things like that, but also I see tons of fitness. Like, you and I both have our ups and downs. Like, we get fluffy and we are very, very strong, and then we get lean and we are very, very active. Where are you in your fitness at this moment? Because I know that you do the races and you do the Spartans and you do these kind of things. Like, what season are we in right now with your
We are
fitness?
in the bulking season again. It's the bulking season all over again. I spent
Right.
60 days back home with my parents, and in my family, we don't converse. We eat, and this is
Exactly.
how we express our feelings is through food. So I have kind of dropped the fitness journey while I was back home, and I in 60 days I've gained. I went through with 88 kilos. I came back with 98. So 10 kilos in 60 days. 10 kilos in 60 days. Let me take a look. How much is that in pounds?
That
Give
is a
me.
significant growth spurt, my friend.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it is. It is. 10
Not
kg
23,
in LBS. Yeah, 22.
22.
22 pounds in 60 days, my friend. And then I've been here for now, I think it's about a week. I'm back in China.
Mhm.
That the scale clicked at the highest I was in Croatia was 99.9. I was almost onto 100 kilos, right?
Right.
And then it started like then I went down to 98 because I kind of started controlling myself. And I think when I came back to China, I started going back to my regular diet and the amounts of food that I actually eat.
Right.
And then it just starts to slowly go off. And I
Mm.
will once I finish up with the trip that is coming up next, I'm just going to go back into my workout regimen again. I need to build up a new program and see which gym I'm going to use or where I'm going to go.
Right.
But just using these machines that are installed around the living area, like to do pull-ups, to do push-ups, to do squats, and to do abs, is like you don't need a gym for that. You just have to sit down and get your ass to do it.
Yes.
This would be the primary kind of challenge, just to get my ass down to sit and do it.
Yeah. No, I 100% feel that. I got back on the CrossFit train, I guess, about a month or two ago,
Mm.
because doing things on my own can sometimes be difficult to motivate. But if I know there is a set time for class and someone is at the front of the class telling me exactly what to do and how the win is actually going to be qualified, great, super. And it has
Hmm.
been very helpful. I've enjoyed it a lot. Yeah.
That's a very important part. Do you have um, like this kind of a supporting mechanism inside of people, inside of the group that you're doing this
Mhm.
with, and that kind of drives you forward? I think one part of the problem is that that group that I had is has kind of got chipped off, and it's now into remains of what it used to be. People are not here anymore; they've left, and there is like the key people are not there. So I need to find this motivation inside of myself. That's always been a struggle.
Yes, it is a struggle, and I think I can apply that to a lot of the other things that I do. Like, my work is often one of those things where I find a very difficult time. You and I were speaking before we actually hit the record button about trying to get motivated to get these things done. Once I get the momentum behind me, it's hard to stop me. But in the same token, building that momentum can be very challenging as well. Do you go through a similar situation with that?
Yes, I do. And that is a part of my diagnosis with ADHD. Actually, the AU ADHD, like AU, I found out this past patch around when I was in Croatia. I did the second part of testing. The first part of testing for ADHD I did earlier in the year. And yeah, the stuff that you're telling me is what I've told my friend who got tested, and he told me these things back, and this is how actually the discovery began.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the part to start and to get easily distracted and then start doing something else. Like I even made a video on that. Like I started doing something in the house. I had to go and edit the video, and I ended up cleaning up the fridge.
Yes. Yep.
I go into the bathroom and I notice, oh my God, this is a little bit dirty, and then I go and I clean up the whole sink.
Yes.
And the time
And
goes by, and at least you did something, but your time passed. I at least did something.
right. I know I was supposed to be starting with something 3 hours later. What was that? Oh, right. And then I go back to the video editing. Yeah. For anyone listening, ADHD is a mixture or a sort of combination of autism and ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So I think that's still the terminology that they use for that. I think that's
Yeah.
what the acronym still stands for. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or operate on outdated information. But just so anyone out there, if you start using an acronym, we want to make sure we let you know exactly what it is we're talking about here. Recent diagnosis leads us to understand that. And also, I think that my attention span is shot to hell. Especially working in social media content creation, those kinds of things, you're always checking your phone. You're always trying to reply to comments. We're always filming something, editing something, working on scheduling something to post, so to make sure that our watchers, listeners, followers continue to have a consistent flow of content to consume. And saying that out loud sounds a lot,
Worse than
yeah, doesn't it? It sounds really bad
that.
sometimes. Like I have to continue.
You're kind of perpetuating the problem that you have yourself.
Agreed.
But then finding like how much to post and how frequently to do it, and when to live online and when to live offline becomes the work-life balance, I guess.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Because a
And
lot of the people
this is the
within my
part to
work,
figure out, which is hard. Like that was my struggle. That was my
yeah,
struggle, and I'm still
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of working on that part, and I'm trying to work out the kinks. But when I saw that my content is actually working, whether I post every 2 days or I post more, like I did the work for the first couple of months where I pushed out like 60, 70 videos in that first period,
Mm-hmm.
where one of the videos managed to top 1.8 million views
Nice.
in that short period of time, right? That was the part, and then later on when I kind of slowed down in Croatia, because Jenny told me you should kind of enjoy your time back home. You shouldn't be spending it as much time behind a computer. When I kind of screwed up my laptop by an upgrade, I upgraded my Mac's operating system, and then it kind of put everything into a small box, like 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 you come back home and then a girl leaves all of your stuff in front of your door.
Uh-huh.
So my Mac installed the update, put everything inside of that little box into this folder, and said like, your shit is here, and I've installed a whole fresh new operating system for you. And it goes like the hello screen. And I was like, when I saw that just before the trip, and I prepared everything, like everything was almost done for the next post and shit, I was, good Lord, make my stuff. I just hope that it is summer inside.
Yeah.
So I open up the computer, I type in, like, I went through that initial setup process, and I open up disk utility to see how much space is used on a hard drive, and it was still there. I open up, like, okay, it's somewhere on the hard drive.
Yes.
But then, like, reinstalling everything, putting everything back into place, and then pushing everything, like,
Yeah.
that kind of threw me completely off the train. And then I started posting erratically, like every week once, or every week and a half, 2 weeks once. I don't know when was the last post. I would have to take a look. But all of these posts did really good. I got like thousands of likes and comments, and like views. Like it worked anyway, right? So being constantly there, I don't know. Maybe our markets are slightly different, because here in China it works slightly different for me. Maybe because I am different face. So, and the way I do content is slightly different than other Western people in China. I kind of don't aim to please anybody, and I don't shill towards any, either east or to the west, right? I just see and say what I see and how it makes me feel. I'm focused on the people, because like people have been like the key part in either my photos or in my videos. That people, it's always people, right? So I focused on that part of life, and then I think that kind of hits a little bit differently.
Yeah. I
and
agree.
it kind of works. Kind of works.
I
I
agree.
try to keep things um, mostly PG and
Uh,
mostly fair, right?
sure.
And I'm trying to show some angles that people may have not considered.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of also works. But I think that this kind of erratic content creation may be a part also of what I'm dealing with, right?
Yeah.
Because I cannot really focus on one thing just to like, okay, I'm just going to do food and I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to do food. I'm just going to do travel. That doesn't work for me because I would get so bored out of my mind that I would
Yes.
just stop doing it. Like,
I think we've seen a lot of very successful content creators over the past couple of years, especially now that this social media market continues to explode. They burn out, and people that you
yeah,
love to see and their content that you love to see eventually they just kind of fall off the map. And then whenever they come back, you're so excited to see them, and then everyone rushes back to see what kind of content they're making. I think that keeping a nice variety is good, especially if it's something you love. I don't think they show up to see the type of content that you're doing. Like if it's specifically travel or cooking or whatever, I think that
hmm
they show up to see what you love because they love you and you are the brand, not what you're
that's
doing,
the
but the
idea.
fact
Yeah,
that you love it.
that's the idea. That's the idea.
Bingo.
Yeah, just I hope that like I think that is the main challenge when you're going online is facing facing the fact that you may not matter at all.
Yeah, agree.
Kind of dispelling that bubble. And in the beginning, it feels like you don't matter at all, that nobody sees you, that you're completely invisible as you thought you were.
Mhm.
But then again, at the same time, you become petrified that what if so many people start looking at you and you become so overwhelmed by that that you don't know what to do with it. So it's,
Yeah,
like you're kind of in the middle, and then they are like two, like, the Venn diagram, like a circle and a circle, and you're kind
sure.
of in the middle, and then somebody's pulling those circles apart, and you're feeling
Yeah,
it, and that's happening kind of inside of you, right? And kind of you are torturing yourself.
that's
And
art, Bubba.
I'm trying
That
to
is
learn how to
art.
torture myself a little bit less. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and two, I think you did it really well. I think anybody out there knows that the key to success in content creation is just consistency. And you started off and you were putting out, something daily or multiples daily, et cetera. And then whenever you finally got a following, because you were working so hard, now you do the things that you love. The creation of what you have is very specific to who you are and what you love, and people love seeing that. And so if you do it less frequently, they're still dedicated followers and watchers. And I think that's a wonderful lesson because we're doing
Staying
something similar
authentic,
with
I guess.
yes, and sincerity sells more than anything. Authenticity is the
Especially in
thing that
today's day and
continues.
age.
Yes.
Especially in today's day and age when we are really surrounded by um, a lot of influences,
Yes.
and somewhere along the way, what is right, what is wrong, what is truth, what is not true has kind of taken a back seat toward versus we need to win this.
Yeah. And also, you have to sort of decide on whether or not your favorite personalities online and abroad are they trying to sell you something or are they just trying to tell you something? It's okay if there's a little crossover occasionally, but it's just one of those things where you're just like, okay, because there's one thing in telling a story that you love to tell because it sets your heart on fire. There's another thing
Hmm.
in using that same sort of brand and name to sort of like push something out. If it's something you love and something you can't do without, absolutely tell anybody and everybody. But if it's one of those things where someone has approached you for it, sometimes that sort of knocks some dings in your authenticity and sincerity. And sometimes that's a really difficult temptation to avoid, I think.
I agree. I agree. I have not yet faced that situation,
Good.
but I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that. What will I do and how will I react when that kind of thing happens?
Sure. Well, and I
Yeah.
think that something that you brought up earlier, not everything is going to be PG. I think that's crucial. Anyone I know and any creator that I see that always keeps it Disney-fied and G-rated, I'm just like, how do you act whenever the camera isn't on? And I
Yeah,
think that
like I think when you see me here, or when you see
yeah,
me, if you watch my content, when you come across me somewhere, I think that that is going to be the same person, I guess.
Yep, I
That
do.
is going to be as much what you see is actually what you get. I am I'm not very PG. I can be very not PG, but I can be. I like it depends on the situation and what I'm doing and how I feel and what time of the day it is and where I am on the planet and who are the people that are around me because like I kind of adjust to all of these elements that are happening and then we just kind of grow into this.
Yes.
Like you just
Well,
become the more you settle with yourself, the better it is kind of gonna come out, I guess.
yes. And whenever you say something like that, the thing that I want to continue to drive home, just because I change the way that I speak around different audiences of people for maximum impact doesn't mean that I'm not being true to myself or what it is that I want to say. What it
Hmm.
is I'm making sure that I alter the delivery method so that what I want to say gets across to the people who are listening, to the people that I want to reach the most. It's not that I'm changing my message. It's that I realize that the people that are listening need it presented in maybe perhaps a slightly different way. And I am adjusting my delivery so that they still get what it is that I want to say. A lot of people are like, well, you change for different groups of people. Yes, I do, because different groups of people learn or assimilate knowledge in a different way. And I want to make sure that what it is I have to say that they're getting in the way that I want them to get it.
You are not changing yourself and your values. You're just changing the way you talk because you cannot talk the same way to a kindergarten kid and to an adult. Not saying that all your audiences that you're talking to are some of them are kindergarteners and on I'm not trying to put anybody on a certain level of
Sure.
yeah. The
I
point
didn't
is
take
that
it that
you're
way. Yeah.
just gonna you're just gonna deliver the message according to the people that you're talking to and based on your values that you have at a certain moment. And you're talking as a person who has traveled the world, and that is a very, very rare trait. And this is something that has to be recognized because I don't know if you did the same thing as I did, but the more I travel the world, the more I figure out that one set of people cannot be right,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So in order, when you see different people and you approach different people, you have to talk in a language that they are even willing to listen to because sometimes you cannot bring an idea which is um, too big to comprehend for a certain culture that you go and you walk into, but
Yes.
if you know how to talk about it in a different way, you have a more chance of getting and gaining some traction so people would actually listen to it and not dismiss it out of hand, right?
Agree.
And what happens today is that um, we kind of we kind of started designated people according to labels or one wrong thing that they said, and then it becomes their whole like that the person is just that.
That's their
Versus
identity.
being
Yes.
able to say like yeah, versus being able to say okay, this person in general, what they stand for, what they talk about, and how they behave. Like I don't generally support that, but that one thing that they said or those things that they said, they do make sense, right? There's
Hmm.
other things that don't make sense. It doesn't mean that I will completely ignore the good thing that a person says, regardless of my general scope of them. I'm not going to align with them. I'm not going to stand behind them in this, right? But if somebody says something, oh, that makes sense, whoever you are, right? It just
Hmm.
makes sense because there is value in that exchange, right?
Yes. Yes. And I want to start looking at that. I think it's really important that we get caught up in the art of humanity instead of the math of humanity sometimes. And what I mean by that is the idea of people is often something that can mislead you because it's very subjective, wherein the math of people is very much cut and dried. The things that
Mm-hmm.
you believe in, the things that you say and do, and the tenets of certain ways that you live your life, I can 100% support. Others, maybe not so much. So the things that I can, I put in a column, and the things that I can't necessarily support, I put in another column. This person's value is based more on the things that I can support. I can overlook some of the things that they don't support. Whereas if we look at it in more an artistic standpoint, you sometimes throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm just as guilty of this as I can point at anyone to say. It's just that I have to continue to look at the calculus of the situation. Whenever the
And
balance becomes too much in one direction, I have to make a decision on how much I keep them around any longer.
it's not a fixed thing, right? It's a
Yes,
constantly moving and an evolving thing. So you
a
have to
spectrum.
constantly do the math that you have to constantly be engaged in order to ascertain these things in real time. You can't
Yes.
just put a label on it and then throw it out and say like, nah.
Exactly that. We're always talking about that here at Radical Joy. I hate a label. It's really difficult to avoid it because I think a lot of people go the short route. If I put a sticker on it and say, I like this, it's always in my pocket. I put a sticker on it and say, I don't like this, I discard it, never to be looked at again. I think that's a huge loss. We're always talking about reassessing things like our dreams, our goals, where it is we're going, what it is we hope to accomplish, because we continue to move through eras of our lives. And that constant mathematical calculation is what keeps us on top of what is going to serve us best this moment. It's tiring.
Escaping,
Go ahead.
yeah. You need to escape. You need to escape those echo chambers that we set ourselves up for,
Yeah.
and you have to always be searching for the things that are in the opposite side of your belief spectrum,
Yes.
just in order to have the balance between one and the other. Otherwise, you're going to lock yourself up in an echo chamber, and that's a very, very dangerous path to go. It's a slippery slope, and it
Agree.
doesn't lead to anything good.
Agree. And I'm guilty. Oh, I'm so guilty. And here's the thing. I would like to put an and on that. You need other opinions. You need opposing opinions. I mean, diametrically opposed. The thing is, you need to make sure that you find someone who can speak about that from the opposing side of the argument on a level that both of you can really get behind. It's not just the content, it's the delivery, like what we were talking about earlier. I can't talk about someone who has a diametrically opposed position or opinion on a stance if they cannot speak about it in a way that can really argue the point. If someone comes to me with something that is just completely and totally 180 degrees opposed to what it is that I feel, I need them to come to me with sources and reasons and something that is very much supported. Opinion often does not work in a situation that's really important. What I need is the reason why. I need it to be backed up by some sort of I don't source
Not an
material is
emotion.
yes. Yeah, lack of emotion. What I need it to be is something very factually based. I need it to be very data driven and oriented. So then when we're talking about something like that, that I can look at it objectively, it's like, okay, great. Again, there is the math of it instead of the humanity of it. It's like, great. Yes, let's talk about that. And sometimes that's hard to apply. There are
I
certain
think
things
that
that
in a nutshell, you have summarized up your whole country right now.
uh, uh, really, huh? I I
You
I
did.
I
You
would
really did.
never
You
have
really did.
guessed.
Yeah, you really summarized it quite well, right? Because I think that the biggest problem face, facing the country that you are living in right now is um, the fact that everybody speaks English, and then
Uh-huh.
automatically everybody assumes everybody's the same, and yet the people are so different. And I think just because you have a common language, it's an automatic assumption that everybody thinks the same, feels the same, are the same. And your nation is woven out of so many different threads from different continents that it is just impossible to think that just because everybody speaks a common unified language. And I think that this part of the ability to listen through in the face of this is the only unifying factor that you may have, because we know what has happened and we know how things have gone down in the current state of affairs. I think that the biggest problem is that one part of the people have not been listened to. The
Okay.
world was spinning too fast for them. They've pulled the brakes, and they said like we need to be heard as well. Not cannot be only just one set of people heard. We want to be heard as well. We want to be acknowledged. And the reason why this has gone this way is because they finally felt they got that. They finally felt they were acknowledged, they were heard, and that their existence is not being denied. So pulling this break and having this happen, like that, I think that's the reason why things went down this way. And this self-validation that people might have found, irrespective of how you feel about it, this self-validation they might have found might have been more important for them than anything else.
I think you're right. Do I
And
love it? I want to make sure that I say this because I think that you're right. I think that this is an I pray I am wrong. I feel as though this is one of those things, you will hear me if I have to burn down the world to be heard. It remains to be seen. I hear
This
what you're
again, we
saying.
said this is as we said, this is a very, very slippery path,
Yep.
right? And a slippery slope, actually, not a slippery path, but it's a hard thing to thread, right? And
Mhm.
what is going to happen remains to be seen. I don't think anybody can make any firm predictions on that, but I think that this part, what you are trying to do with your channel, is like to be heard, to give people a voice, a platform to speak, and place to express. I think that this has actually happened, and for better or for worse, um, this is where the world is right now. And I think that this part, if we have listened more to each other and kind of really gave it a thought of what the other side was trying trying to say and how validate the way they were feeling, maybe like that would have given more of a common ground, because currently it's a very, very, very clear division and two echo chambers, because regardless on which social media you go, and when you start reading that, whether you go to the left or to the right, this is something like you can see repeating patterns, and everybody's closed up in the same kind of an echo chamber. And then I think there is people who are in the middle and are wondering what is going on.
Yeah. No, I do. And
So yeah.
my only question on this, and I definitely feel that to be true because we have heard this over and over again from both sides. More on one than the other. And I hate to say both sides. There are many sides to this. I think that there are two of the larger camps that are always coming back to this discussion. We feel as though we've been overlooked. We feel as though we've not been heard, understood, and also, what is it you want heard?
And the answer which usually follows that is we don't know. That's the silence that usually comes after that question, right? And this is the like,
Right.
but yeah, and I can understand that there is a silence behind that, because sometimes people need to just know that if they have something to express, maybe not at that specific time on that specific spotlight, that this will be heard. And that when sometimes, like sometimes you have a conversation or a fight with somebody, right? And then
Mhm.
you remember your answers like an hour later.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to ask that question, give people time to think, and then not demand the answers on the spot, but let them answer when they are ready. And they try to figure this thing out, right?
And honestly, I don't think that is an unreasonable ask. I don't. My thing is this: we continue to ask, we continue to hear, we don't know, we just want to be heard. Great. And the things that we do hear are things that are very detrimental to very specific and, I would say, um, disadvantaged groups of people, it feels.
Mm.
I think that a lot of things
It's
that, oh,
ooh. We need
okay.
to hit a little bit of a pause. I think I need to bring the power cable back. one of
Okay.
my lights, one of my lights died on the battery. I
Understood.
want. I'm gonna leave you with this thought. Living all in purple. I'm gonna give you this thought.
Okay.
Currently, and this is the parallel that I've used about China as well. Is like I'm not. China is kind of woman out of so many different ethnic groups and different people, and they're like different puzzles and different puzzle sizes, right? And those puzzles need to learn how to live together. Each puzzle needs to adjust itself and move out of their comfort zone in order to accommodate for another puzzle. They have to grow, and they have to contract or grow and move so they could actually kind of interlock, and then they could actually complete the big picture,
Mhm.
right? The US has always had that kind of, it had that quality, it had that power, and that they could overcome so many differences in spite of being so internally different, right? They could overcome the obstacles. And there is like when push comes to shove, like the unity of the people over trumps everything else, right?
Mhm.
It kind of everything else becomes secondary, and then the unity kind of takes over. And your country does have that power, and that's the beauty of it. Once this menial things are forgotten, that underlying set of values is something that has all it cannot be ignored. Like it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the part that your country still has. And as long as people are focused on this value, forgetting that other things may not be as important as this part of unity, I think that could be a good way forward. Let me just go grab the power cable, and I'm so sorry for that. That my
No, you're
light
fine.
has kind of like, yeah,
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay.
We'll come back after this short
After
break.
this moment for our station.
For the light that hasn't been charged for months, this was actually okay.
Oh,
All of a
Yeah.
sudden, your sound got much, much better. Great.
What did you say that my sound got much, much better?
Yes, tremendously.
Really? This is like
Yeah.
a built-in microphone from the iPad.
It is significantly better than what you were using on your earbuds.
Okay, I will then use that as a microphone and not the buds.
Actually, use the buds for consistency's sake, but I'm just saying for like moving forward, if you ever want to do this again, yeah.
With you, I want to do this again. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Oh my gosh, some of the stuff you said today has been absolutely incredible. Zero surprise. I'm just like, oh wow, yeah, that.
Give me more of that.
Please? Yeah, one sec.
Okay, that is on power. Oh, this is soft. You can plug it there on top. Oh no! You can. You no into that. Yeah, exactly. And we're back.
And we're back.
So, oh wait, what do I have here? Oh, good lord. These are the acorns here. Like there's the acorns that my daughter put inside of my shirt.
Uh-huh.
I just discovered them.
Of course.
There's like a lot of these.
In the pocket, in the shirt itself, where?
Oh, I stepped away for 1 second. What did I miss?
Oh. Max's lighting went to a very specific shade of purple, and I was like, oh, all of a sudden we are in Amsterdam. Got it. And so we reset so that we could get it all put back to what it was. So there's going to be about a 5-ish minute
Are you here?
moment to edit out. Oh, yeah. Right there in the middle there, please, Gary.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah. Now, what you were saying earlier, I 100% agree. We definitely have a unity issue, and something that you mentioned earlier, like just because everyone here speaks English, you think that everyone is communicating the same. That was a while earlier in the conversation. It was groundbreaking. That's not the case. My thing is like it's we continue to try so hard to be heard and understood, and I get that. And I think that the thing is, being understood is one thing. Accepting what it is we understand about another is a different conversation. I think there are still some folks. I think that there are a lot of perceived problems in the United States that just aren't a problem. It's just a fact of not letting someone else's life influence yours. I think we have a lot of topics that really work people into a froth where I'm like, if you don't like it, don't do it sort of situation. Not everything that I do, I don't have expectations of other people loving or wanting to do themselves. If you don't like gay marriage, don't get gay married. If you don't like abortion, don't get one. I think that we have reduced so many of these topics that are so incredibly polarizing in our nation to a fact where it's just like, if it doesn't affect you, please don't let it affect you. Speak with your children about it if you find it offensive or something that our family doesn't do, and make sure moving forward they think about that if that decision comes to them. I think where we have a problem is that a lot of people, in their desire to be understood, also understand that to be as an influence on other people's lives, whenever I think that perhaps is putting understanding a little bit outside of understanding and more of a control thing. I can
Like the people
understand
who stop smoking, then they become,
anti-smoking. I
and
don't like that, and you shouldn't like it because it's terrible for you and da 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 da. And it really doesn't go past that single individual. If you don't like it, don't do it. It's not your life's mission to eradicate smoking in everyone you know and love. You can share the information you have learned with them, and if they continue this habit, that's on them, not you. Yeah, but I know that it's killing them. Again, not your life, not your decision. I understand that it comes from a very honorable place, a very noble endeavor. You can't save people who don't want to be saved. And also, your idea of salvation may differ greatly from what someone else thinks is salvation.
the one part that you can say is like, I don't want this close to my kid because this influences kids in this and this way. This is your complete prerogative, but you can set the boundaries. You can
Absolutely.
explain how you feel towards that, and then it's up to the other side to see whether which part is more important, right? You add
Yes.
certain values, but the problem begins on the point when things get dismissed out of hand
Yes.
without a conversation, and this is where you're losing. You're playing a losing game, right? That's a race to the bottom. I dismiss this, you dismiss that. It's like a complete like racquetball of dismissals, and then it grows into absolutely nothing of value.
Yes.
You remember like earlier you asked me, you said you stated this part, like when you ask what do you want to be heard, right?
Yeah.
There is one problem with this answer, is like, because usually this answer comes out from knowing yourself, and without knowing yourself and like kind of taking a deep dive into yourself, this answer sometimes cannot surface, or it doesn't know how to surface well, and then people become very, very defensive, and then in
Yes.
that defensiveness they don't recognize this as something, oh my god, this is something that I need to learn about, like just openly saying like, I don't know right now, I'm not, man, I'm not sure right now, but this doesn't sit well with me, I need to go take a break, I need to sit down, I have to think it through, and then can we continue this conversation later? Can
Yes.
we talk about this when I'm more ready? Because like you kind of got me off guard with this question. I really need to
Yes.
figure this thing out. And you at that moment, the attitude of the opposing party would come kind of crucial in it. And the
Yes.
attitude of like, yeah, like fair enough. Like I'm not gonna dismiss you. I'm not gonna call you names. I'm not gonna like try to shove you into the ground because of this moment, but I understand, and yeah, we can continue, because like this is how the conversation can grow, and this is kind of you leave, it's like a zero-sum game at the end, right? Like
Mhm.
nobody won, nobody lost, people have to think, and then once we reconvene we can have like a conversation about that once we have more information. So it's like something that you kind of put an effort into, right? And even if you don't
Yes.
come to the same conclusion later on, at least both sides have been heard.
And that's just it. I think we're putting so much emphasis on the conclusion, and it isn't the conclusion that anyone cares about. Yes, people have a vested interest in having their opinion, their side heard. Some people are much more aggressive about it, and some people expect everyone to be swayed. And I think that is I think that is a less fruitful goal from the conversation. Something you mentioned, and I think that would be a great offer. If you're on the side where you're like, well, what is it you want me to hear? Like you said, that puts people on the defensive almost immediately. What I would say, if you're trying to get that person to come forward with what it is they want to hear in order to avoid burning the world, that we can say something to the effect of like, okay, well, this is not a question you need to answer specifically today, but I want to know, where is the line in the sand? Like, what is it you want me to hear so that we can all move forward, because right now I feel as though that we're all in the car and you refuse to get your foot off the brake. And that sounds accusatory, but it's not. What I want to do is put this in your mind now so we can visit it later to know what it is you want to put in the world to be heard, so we can all perhaps cautiously, tentatively move forward so we don't have to worry about the things that are happening now happening again in the future. Things that we've seen happen in the past that were devastating. How can we change that so we don't have to deal with that again? I don't want a rerun of that. I want to, we have so much potential for being so much more than I feel we are. We continue to make progress, and then people who get nervous or scared lock the whole thing down because they feel as though everything is moving too quickly. I was like, well, I don't know how to continue forward momentum any more slowly. So tell me what it is, those kinds of things.
Let's find a mutual pace.
Please. But I think
Yeah,
that
and
forward is still the preferred method. Can we please move forward?
have you ever thought why people always like why does history repeat itself? A thought came across my mind.
Okay.
When was the last time our education system changed?
Yeah.
Because we are producing, like in the West, the education is very Eurocentric, right?
Mm-hmm. Very much.
In the US is even kind of more so.
US centric, if we want to be very
US
serious.
centric, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of disregard the existence of the rest of the planet. How much of African history did you learn in high school?
None. Are you kidding me? We had
How
an
much did you learn
Alabama
about
history.
Asia? How much did you learn about Asia or India
Mm-hmm.
or history of Europe or Russia?
Yep.
Other countries, right? Something that is not belonging to just our known world. And that kind of education system can only create more of itself and more of its own clones and more of the people stuck back in time, repeating the same mistakes because this thing cannot follow.
Mm-hmm.
That was much more like that. We had an excuse for that before. But today, when you're able to find knowledge anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
you just have to search, and you have to be aware that you need to search both sides of the spectrum in order to make an informed decision. Whether you agree, whether you disagree, you need to, because there is always good arguments on both sides, right? The problem is that always the loudest people prevail.
Yes.
And the people who are not ready to face this part of learning, they will imprint those things that kind of move them the most. They will automatically imprint that as a part of their own thought process without kind of critically rearranging things before they absorb any information. And that kind of creates waves and powers which can cause big problems.
Yes. Yes. Well, and the thing too, I think what you brought up earlier is wonderful, because before we had the technology and literally the wealth of human information at our fingertips 24/7, without fail, without stopping, it was how much can we teach them in the amount of time that we have them in a classroom, from the time that in the United States from K to 18. How much can we put inside their little heads? How much are they willing to sit there and absorb? I think what we need to focus on more, and this is a complete layperson opinion, is instilling a desire to know more. I'm always preaching the virtues of travel. It's always like, expose yourself to other people with other opinions, with other ways of doing things, of the other ways of living, so you can figure out what it is you like, what in your own life is not working from the culture where you originated. What can you integrate? What can you see works better in other places? What can you see that we as Americans do better? And move forward with sort of an integrated system instead of a strictly Western centric or Eurocentric, etc. What can we glean? What can we effectively use to make sure that all of these models continue to elevate? Because it's not, what can I teach them? You know, you get to university level and you can choose a concentration where you'll learn more about, you know, a certain culture or certain aspects of history. But I think a lot of people will leave academic institutions and may never pick up another book, may never search for anything like this. People keep talking about men in the Roman Empire. It's like, okay, great. I know whenever I was growing up, it was World War II. Like, there were so many guys in my school that were just like obsessed with World War II. I was like, okay, great. I mean, it's great that you know so much about this. Can we sort of broaden this perspective, your passion for learning, to learn more about something instead of just this very specific era of American history? Because the capability is there. We have the ability to assimilate more knowledge and have that influence who we are as people moving forward. I think that we need to leave ourselves just a little bit more open to it. Like what we were talking about earlier. What is it you want to hear? What is it that you're saying that you want to be heard above all else? What is it you want to learn above all else? What is that you find the most interesting, the most enriching?
What are your base values as a human? What is your what are your building blocks of yourself, and what are you, based on those, how do you want to lead and kind of craft your existence, I guess? Because once you have those building blocks set and you know that these are the ones that you want to go with, right? That's where you start building these parts. What you want to be heard, what do you want to speak about, how do you want to be heard, what is the part that kind of resonate with you that you want to put out, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes
And,
it's a way easier path of just absorbing everything that when somebody else has done this part and then you just take theirs instead of yours.
okay. Copy and
That is kind
paste
of,
is not a great idea.
copy and paste is not a great idea unless it is literally aligns with your values. But like if you take somebody else's value because you haven't developed yours, just like you swap them out, swap pieces around, that can create fragmentation in your own personality, I think, and that can be a painful process to reverse. Once
Yes.
you, like, sometimes it's very hard to admit that you've been wrong, but that doesn't really hurt a lot because you just say I was wrong, and then I just want to not be wrong anymore. I want to change my opinion, because why wouldn't I change my opinion? I've heard something new, and there's new information. There is something that kind of, okay, moves me in a different direction, and what, I was wrong, and now I want to fix this part in myself that I wasn't right.
Yes. And I would love to give even more grace to that if I could. If we have found new information, if someone has that big of a problem with being wrong, I'm going to give that even more grace. I'm gonna be like, okay, super. You were operating on an old set of information. You were operating on a set of core values that were installed in you at a very young age. And now that we have new information, I give you permission to move into a new era of evolution. Now that you know something different, now that we all as humanity know something different, I give you permission to integrate that into it. And some core values that no longer serve, you're put them on the back burner. And now new values that you found, new priorities in your life that you've set, you individually, because of the things that are important to you, we continue to build on that and make that more of who you are and continue to grow into it. Being wrong is difficult. I've got a really good friend, and I've mentioned this several times on the podcast. He says, I want to be good at being wrong so that whenever I learn better, I can do better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would love to make sure that I give that out there, because some people, honest to God, they will kill themselves in order to prove themselves right. I have several friends like that. I am often like this. I'm not throwing that pointed finger at anybody. I'm putting myself in the same camp. I want to be better at it. And if you just absolutely can't do it right now, hopefully you'll grow into it. Super. You weren't wrong. You just learned better information, more information that gave you more to inform your opinion and your core values. And we move into that part of where you are
Mm-hmm.
now. Super. Because wrong, again, like we were talking about earlier, puts people on the defensive, and it's really difficult to integrate new information and grow into something better whenever you're on the defensive. You've got to stay open to more and new and better information.
Yeah. uh, who said the part like I would never die for my principles because I could be wrong?
Yeah. And principles, God love them, they continue to shift, they continue to grow. And people say, I want to be steadfast. I'm like, wonderful. Please understand that even the oak continues to change. He grows. His roots may not
Yeah.
move, but he continues to grow.
And this is the thing, is like sometimes even in a country like China, where people are predominantly of the same looks, same race, right? Even though there's like, China is a country woven out of many minorities, it is really, really hard to find this common ground that we talk about, right? Even
Right.
inside here, it's hard to find the common ground. And when you try to make that kind of a census of how we're going to move forward, whose values are going to be taken into consideration? How are we going to build this system where we will, like, who gets to decide, and why does this set of people who get to decide? How can we find this common way forward? And this is the part where things get complicated. So many voices arise, and that I think is especially visible in the US, because it's a country made out of so many people.
Yes. Yeah.
What are
And
the factors that are going to dictate of how things are going to go, and where they're going to go, and how which new set of values are we going to use for ourselves to describe ourselves when we have outgrown the old ones?
yes.
It's like there's so many difficult questions without any clear answers. And I'm not talking about academia. Academia probably has answers for these questions, and if we read more and we try to dig into it more, there will be, I believe, we can discover possible ways forward and how to build a more inclusive society, which is more understanding of each other, of people that are around. But that requires constant development. You can't stop growing, you can't stop developing, regardless of your age. When the world is changing this fast, it is very easy to fall off the wagon. Just like you and I fall off the wagon, and we kind of fail to demotivate ourselves to go to the gym. But it's so easy to motivate to grab the chocolate bar. You know, like if I had the same amount of motivation to go to go do 50 push-ups as I have for that chocolate bar, we would have way less problems. And
Yes.
if in some wonderful world we manage to find that motivation for mutually understanding each other, I think that will be very beneficial for us as humankind, because we don't carry the colors of our beliefs on the outside of our body, right? Our core values actually happen when bad things happen, and we very rarely know how to deal with this when good things are happening, right?
Right.
I don't know why we always have to be on the precipice of a ground shifting event before we take note in anything in life, and starting from our own health, you know.
Agree.
We
Agree.
always kind of, we decide for change when there is no other way.
When we are teetering on the brink of destruction, then, and sometimes only then, do we wake up to realize that we need to make a change.
And this is the part, like these are the thoughts that kind of persist with me, and that they're kind of like rummaging through my head, and I don't know, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night to write down my thoughts, because sometimes they become just too loud and I have to put them somewhere. So my devices are always next to me, so or a book, so I could wake up and just put it there, right? Because in the morning I wake up and then I forget, but it felt like it was important. So like kind of this conversation is kind of woven out of many of these midnight bits and pieces that were going through my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and you're one of the people that I can actually talk about this. I can talk with you about this, and then you will come back with other, like, you're open, even though you're opposed to certain things, you're still open to think those things through, and then make a decision on it, right?
Yes.
Not the quality that many people find ranking high on their priority list, right? But it would be good that some of these priority lists are kind of rearranged to accommodate for this critical thinking and being open to opposing opinions in order to learn something new. Otherwise, we just stop. And
I think that's what I keep seeing. And we see so much of this. Like, we have so much potential for growth and evolution and becoming so much more. And I think it's important that I have a strong stance on something. Nothing is concrete. Nothing is set in stone. Okay. I have
Mhm.
incredibly strong opinions on certain things. If someone comes to me with a way of moving the needle, I'm here for it. Because I don't particularly love having this strong sort of opinion on what I think the next 4 years are gonna look like in the United States. I pray for
Not whoa, whoa,
success.
whoa, wait. It's
Yeah.
not just about the United States.
Oh, I'm fully aware.
The next 4 years are going to reshape many of our lives, and I don't think people actually understand how impactful things may get.
I know that's a fact.
Yeah,
And pardon me, whenever I mention the United States, please don't think that it's only. I know we're not insulated. We're an enormous influential fact of life on the planet. I get
yeah,
that. The world
true.
watches the United States. I 100% get that. My concern, specifically, James Bullard, is that we are the epicenter of ripples that are going to affect the rest of the world. In the next 4 years, I think a lot of people are thinking that we're very much insulated, that we're an island. They don't care about the rest of the world because they don't think that the rest of the world influences the United States and vice versa. And I think that is narrower thinking than is helpful. I want to be very careful how I mention that because, like you said, no one is an island, no one is insulated. And the influence that we have over the rest of the world cannot be underestimated. And it's not the policy even, it's not even things like that. It's just how we interact with one another and how the person we have chosen as our representative to the rest of the world influences who we are in the eyes of the rest of the world. I want success for us. I do. I want Donald Trump to do an excellent job for the United States. His success is all our successes. In my mind, I have a somewhat rigid idea of what success looks like, and I am curious as to whether or not he is capable of helping us achieve that. We will see, and I hope that there are systems and people in place that will guide his leadership in a way so that the rest of the world can move forward.
There is a very noble thought behind that you just put out there, and yes, one person who manages to create a sustainable system for everybody else is going to be instrumental for how the country is going to be perceived and what kind of influence it is going to exact over the rest of the world, right? He is the man that generally should be trusted, that he's going to do what he says he's going to do, because the first 4 years have kind of shown that, regardless of how outside the box his general ideas were, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I am not sure whether that is a good trait or a bad trait. I mean, it's good that he can be trusted that he's going to do what he says, but I don't always align that whatever he says is for the best, if you know what I mean.
I do.
And whether I kind of hope that he has the ability to say, I'm sorry, I cannot fulfill this promise because I figured out that this will not work or this is not good enough, and then have the explanation behind that.
Right.
If this kind of ability exists within him, then there may be a chance.
And this is where that grace that I mentioned earlier may come into play, because I do not see Donald Trump ever doing anything like that. What I do see is that moving forward, he will never admit fault or error. What he will do, hopefully for the good of all, both in the United States and worldwide, we have new information, and now we are taking this in a different direction. He'll never have to admit that he's wrong. I'm fine with that. If I'm honest, I don't want to sit here on some sort of hill upon which I must die to say, no, he needs to say he was wrong. No, because I'm not so foolish to think that that's the only way forward. What I would like to say is that when presented different information that would be more beneficial to more people, he will move in a different direction and say something like that in order to justify it, or just honestly take action in a different direction. delicious, perfect.
You don't have to say it verbatim. I was wrong.
Right.
No. It's just show through action.
You change direction. Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Because like this is like, I can tell you, like here where I live, you will not see people talk about stuff like we talk in the West. They will not come and they will not say things were wrong. They will not seek corrective action. They will not seek feedback in the same way, or you will not be able to receive feedback in the same critical way that would help you there on the spot. But things change from within.
Yes.
Things change from within. Things change through observation. And I can say that for the last 7 years that I've been here, even 10 coming and going, you know, things are internally changing. People are internalizing a lot of things over here, and they are not dealing with the same thing as we are dealing with the West, but the change comes from within. And that change is very, very visible. They don't talk in the same way as we talk and discuss. Right. It is not going to be, I am wrong, we will fix this. But it will be, no, nothing is wrong. Everything is okay. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And then the work is going to start. And then like everything is going to be ironed out on the surface, which doesn't mean it has been shoved underneath the rug. The mound is still going to exist. They will be aware of the mound, and they will try to, after this has been done, go underneath that, like under the rug, and try to
smooth
things out.
Of course.
Try to smooth it out, right? This is the country that has been, 50 years ago, it was Hungary. Yeah. And it had way different 2 years ago, I don't know. Like, like that's a big leap.
Yeah, it really is.
That's a big leap. And something had to be done right in order for that kind of transition to happen. Yes. Which would kind of lead me to believe that many of these things are actually internalized regardless of the surface, and then the work has been done in the right direction. And discussing the governance types really doesn't matter, because there is no single perfect governance type that we have out there. Yeah. There is a need for a new unifying one based on the core values that we were talking about, and figuring out what are those core values that are actually important. And then going onwards from there, right?
Yes.
I can understand why people here are generally satisfied, because in the same generation of people, you have people who remember how it used to be hungry, and today that there is no. They've lived through the change. Like when people talk about China speed, like people have lived through that China speed over here, and they've kind of embraced this, and they've learned about the world way more than the world has learned about them.
Yeah, agree.
And this is the part where people think that people here don't know, but people can see outside, and the people from outside cannot see here. And people from here, using different techniques, can learn about what is happening on the outside of the world, and they can make informed decisions. They can compare, because they understand their own country, they see their own country, they see what's happening outside, they can do the math, right? And in the West, we get the information through different information sources, and when the light travels through different prisms, that it changes shape, direction, and everything else, and then you can paint it in different lights, and you can choose, and somebody chooses and picks your information. It is very hard to figure out what is right, what is wrong, and if somebody constantly feeds you with a certain type of information, you're more prone to just believe that part and not to question. And this is the part where we then again we are playing a losing game. And I can tell you that this part of the island that you talked about, that the US is an island, that is what happened to dynasties across the world. If you remember, like Qing dynasty thought that they were on top of the world. Mayas and Aztecs thought the same thing, and they thought that being on their own, everything is going to be fine. Japan thought the same thing.
Holland, there's so many. Great Britain, like it's one of those things where empires continue to rise and fall.
Great Britain stepped off its perch quite gently. They did not. They did not. They did not get their head stuck in a sand, right? They were not like what happened to some other great civilizations when they were not ready for this. And the current situation in the US and how it is being closed up and without looking at the world, it kind of reminds me of that of the Qing dynasty before the Great Fall. All of these things can be changed, can be remedied, and there is no point of no return. Like the only point of no return is a couple of people pressing red buttons and launching things into the air, and that's the point of no return. But everything else besides that, nobody can tell me there is no point. There's not such thing as point of no return.
Yeah. Agree.
What did Tom Cruise say in Vanilla Sky? What was that cliche? Every day that sun rises is another chance for turning things around. Was that something like that? But
it has been eons since I've seen that
yeah,
movie.
that kind of stuck with me. Like, so it may be similar to that, something in those lines, but yeah, every day is another chance to turn things around. It just comes down to that, to see what will be happening, because either it is going to be people who are going to say like, okay, we proved that things can be different, we change things and things are going to be better for everybody.
Yeah.
Or it is going to be a very, very hard look into the mirror and saying we were wrong, which usually doesn't happen. And then again, we've seen in history how these things play out if people are not ready for that. And this is not so long ago, the things that were happening like that, with people not being ready to admit that things are wrong. So yeah, let's hope that recent history doesn't go into the repeating pattern, because we were too proud to make the change, right? And like you said, like I'm guilty of that as well, and I'm trying to, just in a relationship between me and Jenny, right? Sometimes admitting that you are wrong, that you need to change, like coming from that basic thing, right? Inside of your home, inside of your own four walls, this can be hard. Let's imagine on the global stage of things.
Yes.
But then there is those sunken costs, either in time or in resources or everything, that is really hard to admit and let go of.
It's hard to abandon that once you've invested so much. It's true. Yeah. Because you go so deep, it's hard to once you've reached a certain point, to admit that perhaps this wasn't the exact path I wanted to take and I should change my direction. Yeah, but you've already I understand that. And now I know differently, and I'm going to change this in order to assimilate this new information and move forward.
I think that I'm more prone to accepting that because I've been living my life and changing it for 180 degrees more regularly than most. That
So often.
I would argue, right? I've started from scratch many times in many different places. I don't know what would be the reason behind that. Am I kind of scared of success in one place, and then I just kind of set myself up to restart somewhere else and start the journey again because it's exhilarating and it gives me meaning and purpose? I don't know, like maybe this is not the right thing to do as well, but it does kind of help you see things better and figuring out that what I was doing before doesn't have to be what I'm doing now, and it doesn't have to be what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. So when people tell me, do I see myself staying forever at one spot, I say, like, I have no clue what is coming up next.
Right? It's always so funny to me whenever I tell people that I'm going to be changing something, like, oh, is that forever? It's like, how do you even ask that question? I have no idea. I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years. I don't know where I'm going to be in 10 years. I don't know when I'm going to kick the bucket. You continue to ask for, oh, is this forever? And it's just, so many people have that mindset because they want to just lock into something and make sure that they know something about you. That's the last they're going to learn about this, and that is the truth from here on out. I'm like, I think we're looking at this a little bit differently. I've got a big move ahead, and they're like, oh, are you going to be there forever? It's like, what? How many times have I moved in the last 20 years? Why would you think that I would be there forever? I haven't been anywhere I've been forever. And yeah,
you've literally just said, I need some time and space to figure this thing out, and I need to take it right now, because this is because I don't know what I'm thinking right now. I need to
Yeah.
go into a neutral space. I need to go into a quiet chamber to assemble my thoughts and feelings, and I need to do a little bit of internal defragmentation to figure these things out. And then after I've managed to do this, then we can have this conversation again, and I will be wiser for that. But staying where I am right now is not going to be helpful to either me or the surroundings, and I can turn out to be bitter, sad, and nitpicking on things that I maybe should not be nitpicking on, because there may be some moves and agendas and stuff that I would otherwise appreciate, but I cannot see this with a clear mind right now because everything is weighing so heavily on me. So I need to go somewhere and I need to reassemble this. I need to reevaluate things, and I maybe need some distance to figure this out.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's
But
that's almost always my MO. It's just take a
yeah,
minute and reassess. We've said that a couple of times
exactly.
during this
Let's
one.
take
Yeah,
a minute. Let's take
let's
a
just
minute
take
and
a
let's
minute.
reassess. Yeah.
Max, thank you so much for joining us here today, buddy. For any of all
Man,
of
this
our
has
listeners
taken
out there,
so many turns.
right? These always do. That's part of the reason I love it. We're probably going to break this into at least 2 or 3 episodes, which I love. So that way, they took very specific turns in very specific spots. And our
Yeah.
editor Carrie,
We
she's
did
going
have
to take
we had proper inflection points.
absolutely, and that's the best part of it. As long as we know where to turn or where to cut it off and start the next episode, delightful. So anybody and everybody that want to learn more about Max and what he's doing, we're going to make sure that we have all of his media links in the notes for the show. So please make sure that you go there and see if that's something that you would enjoy. I love it. Quite frankly, the images and some of the media that he puts out there they're so interesting. They are a very specific brand of humor. So hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I do. If this is your first
And
episode, oh, go ahead, bud.
yeah, like just spending this time with you is what I'm actually what I was looking forward to, right? Because we haven't spent a quality time conversing like this in a long time, right? We have
Yeah.
these phone calls, and occasionally we have touch points, and then there was
Uh-oh.
we had to talk about things in life and what's going on. And yeah, when I said that we should do this more frequently, like I really do feel that we should do this more frequently. So if kind of this device pans out into something that we can do on a regular basis, I'm game.
I'd love it. As soon as I get landing, I would love it so we can figure out something to do more frequently.
I agree. And thank you for having me here. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I hope that if we need to do something more structured, we can also do that. I think we can also follow the script, but today we just walked into it, and let's have a conversation and let's see where it takes us. And that's exactly what happened.
That's the way we do it here. If this is your first episode of Radical Joy, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for joining me, my friend Max, here on Radical Joy. If this is not your first episode, welcome back. What an incredible time to be here with us, just talking about the world at large, micro, macro, zooming in, zooming out, and finding out all these things. If you are a person who likes to review, please make sure you leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform where you're listening. Make sure you take a screenshot. Send it to us so we know that you're listening and enjoying Radical Joy. Share it with your friends. Word of mouth is easily the very best advertisement we could hope to get from you. As always, friends, thank you so much for joining us, and please never, ever forget, love y'all.